This is Ag Matters PM from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, brought to you by the Iowa Soybean Association, your source for the latest Iowa ag news headlines right here in the heart of the heartland. With reports from our award-winning team of Dustin Hoffman, Riley Smith, Mark Magnuson, and Andy Peterson. Now, from the IARN studios in Des Moines, here's Mark.
Hello and welcome into Ag Matters PM on the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. I'm Mark Magnuson. Today is Monday, June 23rd, 2025, and we're so glad you can join us for today's show. In today's episode, I will be joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for our closing markets. But first, it is my discussion with Alex Hintz of NOVUS as we learn about the vital start for piglets and how that can lead to maximizing pig potential.
Mark Magnuson for the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network, and I'm joined today by Alex Hintz. He is with NOVUS. And Alex, could you tell me, please, your job title, your role at NOVUS?
Yep, so with NOVUS, I'm on our technical services team for swine in North America. I'm a veterinarian by training and spend most of my time working with North American customers.
And Alex, I know the big focus for NOVUS at this year's World Pork Expo, which is where we're located here today, is the piglet. Focusing on the piglet, setting up that piglet for that long-term success to maximize the potential. Where does that start?
So maximizing piglet potential actually starts at the sow farm. So what can we do on the sow farm to either keep diseases out or impact that performance into the nursery?
And I know when it comes to disease threats, we're always looking out for diseases. We're always learning about new diseases. Seems like for so long we've been focusing in recent years on African swine fever. But let's talk about the here and now. Let's talk about those diseases that we know are ever present. We'll think about PRRS and then porcine epidemic diarrhea virus. Where are we at right now in terms of the strains of those viruses and kind of their threat?
So as we know, we've been dealing with PRRS for, I think, 35 years now. And a lot has changed in the industry, but a lot is really the same. So a goal for our producers is what can we do to keep that virus out of the farm, and how can we, as a company or as an industry, reduce that risk of transmission, whether through pigs, whether through feed, through introduction by people. And PED is a lot of the same way. So anything you do, if you're focused on PRRS, you can kind of extrapolate to your PED virus as well.
So biosecurity, obviously a big piece of that puzzle. Where have those advancements come in biosecurity? What are some of those things that we maybe don't realize is happening on the farm?
So we've focused on pigs and people for a lot of the past 10, 15, 20 years. And now it's asking ourselves, okay, what other pillars can we look at to try to keep those diseases out? So one area of the industry that's been ramping up, I think the last 5 or 6 years, has been feed biosecurity, and seeing how we can reduce the risk of transmission of those viruses coming in through the feed. And it's a low risk, and you're not going to find it every time. But can you take that low risk out completely by impacting and putting something in the feed that then also can impact the performance of the pig on the sow farm and then the piglet into the nursery as well?
And have we seen farmers, producers making those necessary steps to continue to fight back against this disease? Because like we know, it can change and kind of mutate a little bit.
So they've been looking at what they can put in the feed, and can we use a product? Sometimes it's an organic acid like Activate DA. There's medium chain acids out there. There's other products. But each of those can reduce that risk of transmission to the sow. And then the producer, they've been focusing a lot more on whatever I put in that feed, can it impact my performance into the nursery, into the finisher, and then give me a payback beyond what I'm spending on the sow farm.
And how are we doing in terms of dealing with these diseases? Are we following those steps that we need to be doing? Are we making strides, in dealing with PED and PRRS?
It feels like we're giving it our best efforts that we can. A lot of times it's just putting more focus on each of these little pillars. So keeping an eye on what am I bringing in via pigs? Are my people spending a lot of time on the biosecurity practices, changing, showering, boot baths, feed and everything else, supplies, and then focusing on the feed. So we're making the necessary changes. Disease is tough, and we see all the other companies. We see genetic companies trying to make changes. We see our producers trying to make changes, but every little bit of effort we put into it is going to make a difference at the end of the day.
And of course, PRRS and PED, two of those big diseases we need to be worried about at all times. But is there anything else that we're missing there? Is there something else that we should be focused on?
I think if we can keep those under control, you can then start to focus on your, I don't like to use the word smaller impact diseases, but you're going to see your E. coli's, you're going to see your salmonellas, your enteric challenges that are going to cause diarrhea into the nursery. So focusing on the viruses at the beginning, but then stepping back and seeing, okay, now I can put more effort into my programs in that early nursery to impact your salmonella and E. coli, and hopefully reduce scours is going to give you a big payback at the end of the day.
Do you enjoy coming to a show like this, the World Pork Expo, and getting a chance to talk with producers and other people in the industry just to kind of learn what everyone's doing?
It's awesome to see people that we don't see every day, see producers, see other industry members, friends. We like to call it a family reunion, so we get to catch up. We're competitors, yes, but we're all working in the same industry, so we're going to talk to our friends about what they're doing in their companies. We're going to talk to others about what they're doing, and it's just a really open industry to share all this information. And you don't get that a lot of places, and World Pork Expo is great to bring everyone together like that.
Is there anyone else or anything else you'd like to let our Iowa producers, our Iowa listeners know about when it comes to the steps we're trying to take to deal with these diseases and make sure that those pigs reach the finish line with that max potential?
But I think the last message to leave them with is that everyone's out there trying their hardest to figure out what we can do for them to reduce that risk of disease transmission, reduce the impact of the diseases. And I'm working every day on that. Our industry's working every day on that. So we're never forgetting what our producers are dealing with, and everything we bring to them hopefully is getting them one step better into that direction.
He's Alex Hintz with Novus, my guest here today at World Pork Expo. Alex, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of the expo.
Mark, thank you very much.
Thank you to Alex Hintz of Novus for joining today's show. It is time now for our closing markets. And I will be joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. But first, a word from our sponsor, the Iowa Soybean Association and the Soybean Checkoff. You're watching Ag Matters PM.
Iowa Soybean Association is driven to deliver for Iowa's 40,000 soybean farmers. We're proud to provide objective agronomic research, a helping hand with soil and water stewardship, and timely industry news powered by the Soybean Checkoff. Learn more at iasoybeans.com.
Time now on the closing markets as we are joined by Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net. Robin, what happened in the trade in the grains today?
Well, it took it on the chin. The traders were not kind to the market. A lot of selling pressure maintained all day long. We basically are seeing some decent weather overall. Next week, Monday, we have the acreage report, but they're not adjusting relative to that right now, but basically looking at some good crop conditions. We did see grain inspections lower than the previous week. Some of the international news being up in the air, I think, had something to do with it as well. Even though the stock market was higher, I think part of it, was a little bit, pressure on the grain markets. Maybe not, just because of the uncertainty, put it that way. Like grain inspections today, where corn was 1.477 million metric ton. It was down from last week by 218.9 metric tons. Soybeans at 192,890 metric tons. That was down about 30,500 from last week. And wheat was 254,742 metric ton. That was down 133,970 metric tons from last week. So all of those we saw decreases as far as inspections were concerned. Wheat took it on the chin today. Liquidation took place. It basically took away the rally we saw last Thursday. So we're back to where we were last Wednesday, basically. So that rally was just a short-lived situation there. Wheat harvest is progressing. Crop conditions are fairly decent right now. Soybean oil is probably trending lower, although it was higher overnight. It's trending lower or basically following crude oil. Crude oil shot up last night initially based on the news of possibly closing the Strait of Hamas. But that doesn't seem to be, at least it's still not a definite decision being made there yet. So crude oil turned from sharply higher to over $3 lower at this point. And soybean oil followed the same situation. Now soybean meal is a new contract low today. Just continues to weaken. And of course, the crush pace was stronger for soybean oil. And that makes more meal available. Looking at the corn futures market, December corn is the lowest close since December 19th of 2024. And July corn, front month July corn, is actually making a new contract low today. So it's really a negative situation in the grain markets at this point in time. And we are moving to the July 4th period of time when normally we would see a significant change in market sentiment or direction. We don't see anything right now that could maybe be real bullish based coming into July 4th. Now, the market's changed a little bit, so maybe that doesn't hold quite as true as it used to. But nevertheless, we're looking at some negative attitude, some bearish attitude that permeated through the market today.
So mostly red on the grain side here today. What did it look like in the livestock trade?
Well, livestock, we did see some strength in the hogs. Mixed trade really in cattle. We had the cattle on feed report that came out on Friday after the close. We showed on feed numbers at 99%, right in line with the market. Placements at 92%. That was actually below the market. Marketings were at 90%. They were looking at 90.3%. So really, it was friendly as far as the placements were concerned. But when we took a look at the marketings, placements and marketings, when we look at the marketings at 90%, it would suggest basically that we could see some higher front-end supplies. Not anything that's really bearish to the market, but could just limit some of the strength. So the market weighed that with some friendliness to that report with a lower cash of last week. We did see northern dressed cattle $4 lower, southern live cattle $5 lower. That's the first time we've seen lower cash trade in over 2 months. Now, the previous week we saw steady cash in one of the categories. I believe it was northern dressed, but we saw lower cash. Really, it didn't impact the market as much as we would have thought it would have. So I think traders were balancing between the cattle on feed report to the lower cash. Box beef at midday today is down $1.63 for choice, up $3.90 for select. So we don't really see anything negative there. But feeder cattle provided some support today. Not much. Closed in the green, where we did see some mixed trade in the cattle. So overall, they held well. Now in the hog side of it, we didn't see any cash comparison today due to Packer confidentiality. There were under 860 head traded by the midday report, so the Packers didn't release changes in cash. Now, the last 2 weeks, we saw strong cash on Monday. So my guess is we might see some strength today. If not today, we would see it tomorrow. Pork cutouts were 75 cents higher on the midday report. Hog futures are overbought. They were higher today, but they're over. There's strong demand underneath that market. There might be some tighter supplies that we had been anticipating for quite some time, causing packers to be more aggressive. We have the hog and pig report coming out on Thursday. Now, the market really wasn't preparing for that today. Traders weren't, changing positions or whatever. We could see some profit taking ahead of that report, but yet there's still some solid support under the hog market. So hog market seems to be coming of its own right now after floundering for a while late last year and early this year. Now we continue to see some strength under there, and some demand may be spilling back from as consumers react to the high beef prices.
What's the best way for our viewers to get in touch for more marketing information?
They could call me directly at 877-256-3253 if they would like, or they could call Ag Market directly at 844-424-6758, and someone will be glad to talk with you.
He is Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net, my guest for Closing Markets. Robin, thanks so much for the time. Appreciate it, and have a great rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, and you as well.
Thank you to Robin Schmahl of agmarket.net for joining today's show. Let's take a look at how the markets closed today, and we can find that information anytime under the Markets tab of our website at iowaagnet.com.
July corn closes down 9.5 at $4.19 1/4. July soybeans down 9 1/4 at $10.58 3/4. July soybean meal down $1.70 at $2.8240. July soybean oil down $1.23 at $53.24. Chicago wheat down 15 cents at 5.52 3/4. Minneapolis wheat down 12 cents at 6.26 3/4. Kansas City hard red wheat down 13 1/4 at 5.50 even. July oats up 6 cents at 3.66 3/4. On the Merc, August live cattle down 45 cents at 209.38. August feeder cattle up 35 cents at 302.80. July lean hogs up 68 cents at 113.45. July pork cutout up 30 cents at 121.55. Class 3 milk down 25 cents at 17.26.
That wraps up our closing markets for today and brings us to the end of today's show. You can find all of our content on our website at iowaagnet.com. You can also follow us on social media at X and Facebook. And you can listen to our morning, midday, and closing market podcasts, as well as our daily episodes of our Iowa Ag Matters podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, YouTube, and Podbean. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. Click on our notification icon to let you know whenever there's anything new from the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network. From the Iowa Agribusiness Radio Network studios in Des Moines, I'm Mark Magnuson. For Dustin Huffman, Riley Smith, Ashton Jolly, and Andy Peterson, we thank you for watching. This has been Ag Matters PM.